This episode of AU Manufacturing Conversations is sponsored by MYOB Acumatica, enterprise resource planning software designed to help Australian manufacturers streamline operations, boost productivity, and manage everything from finance to supply chain in one flexible solution. David, welcome to AU Manufacturing Conversations. It's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brent, for having me along. It's great to be here.
Wonderful. So let's get to know each other slightly, as we've never had a proper conversation before. David, tell me a bit about yourself, please, and your career path.
So my name's David. I'm from BusinessHub. We're an ERP implementation partner with MYOB, specialising in the MYOB Acumatica platform. So we work with Australian manufacturers and wholesale distribution businesses to help them solve digital problems or data problems or workflows within their business. In terms of BusinessHub and our journey, so BusinessHub's been around for about just over 20 years. And as I said, we really go quite deeply into the manufacturing sector and working with clients, especially assemblers, batch producers and things like that in the AUNZ marketplace.
So manufacturers, how are they different from some of your other clients, and what are some peculiarities about the industry that stand out and make you think, oh, wow, that's a special degree of difficulty that I don't see elsewhere?
That's a great question. Manufacturers are challenged in multiple areas. They're challenged by needing to innovate in design and innovate in the production process to remain highly competitive. That means that they need systems that can be flexible and can change over time. Manufacturers have unique requirements in terms of data capture on the shop floor that have a material impact on the way they need to view their product from both a cost and quality perspective. And that presents challenges around quality assurance, compliance, as well as then the human interaction with those products as they go down a production line, whether that be a highly automated production line or a relatively unautomated or manual production line process. So that's what stands them apart, I think, from, say, just a pure sort of wholesale distribution business, which is nominally box in, box out. BusinessHub need to work with these clients on the shop floor. These aren't virtual exercises. It's very hands-on in terms of understanding deeply what is happening through that process to be able to practically deploy solutions that work. Examples of that are, how do you help a manufacturer capture data on the shop floor? You can't just drop in some virtual data capture device. You've got to understand how someone or a machine can interact with that device to be able to capture said data that also adds value to the process. So we're not just capturing things for things' sake. So there's some of the unique requirements that we see every day with manufacturers and that they're challenged by. So they're harsh environments that they might be manufacturing, whether it be very hot, very cold. They might be quite disparate in terms of geographical location where they're capturing information and then serving back to what's the purpose of capturing this information for.
Let's move to the next thing, and that is the nature of cloud-based ERP, something I don't think about very much as a humble scribbler and publisher, but something I'm kind of curious about. Please tell me about cloud-based ERPs.
Cloud-based ERP at the core is taking that ERP platform that today may be sitting with some clients on their internal infrastructure and moving to a cloud-based solution that is deployed and managed and secured and backed up. So really at the core, what we see the cloud-based ERP offering is giving customers real-time access in a secure and curated way to their ERP product or platform wherever they are, whether it be on the shop floor, whether it be out in the field, whether it be catering for hybrid work models, whether it be whilst key people are traveling, say for product sourcing or raw material sourcing, that they're able to access the ERP in real time. It's really putting that information at your fingertips, and cloud-based ERP platforms like MYOB Acumatica facilitate accessing in a secure manner that information. The other piece that's important for cloud-based ERP platforms is going on the journey of a product that is upgrading regularly and getting into a cadence of taking on regular updates of product and unlocking the value that software vendors are trying to put into these products. So you are wanting to take advantage of investment within the platform as the modules and features continue to evolve and develop and grow. And the other thing from our perspective, the world in which we operate with data security, managing server infrastructure and hosting infrastructure is just becoming further and further specialized. And MYOB, as the software vendor, is investing heavily in those skills to be able to make sure that the product is appropriately up, it's appropriately secured, and the disaster recovery is wrapped around that to insulate our customers. And I feel that our customers then don't have to have that burden internally. And I think they're better served by having that handled by the vendor.
Well, as you mentioned earlier, you guys are a partner to MYOB, and I believe we both crossed paths, though I didn't recall it instantly. As you mentioned earlier, at an event that MYOB was a part of, and you guys were a guest of theirs, Australia's 50 most innovative manufacturers, if I can blow AU Manufacturing's own trumpet for a minute. And that was a couple of years ago, and hopefully you guys will be a part of it next time around, but that's another conversation. I mention MYOB, Business Hub, and us for the reason of wanting to know a little bit more about your relationship with MYOB and how you fit together and how you represent the Acumatica platform.
Yeah, I think that's an important understanding. So our client or somebody is coming to us generally with a problem or a series of problems to solve. The tools that we choose to pick up and deploy to our customer, if the fit is right, is MYOB Acumatica. So MYOB holds the role of experts around the platform and managing that platform in a secure and scalable manner. And then we are deploying the solution and working with our customer on actually rolling the platform out, training them in how to use it, enhancing the platform for specific workflows that the customer may have that they want us to do, configuring the product, or in certain situations, customizing the product to be able to solve another problem.
I see. So in some of that enhancing, configuring, and integration work mentioned above, no doubt data silos is an issue for customers. Tell me about what they look like in practice and why they're an impediment and something that you work to overcome.
So it really rolls back to the core challenges that our customers have, is that often they're coming to us, and so many customers are faced with data sitting within individual places and then having to duplicate the management or the movement of that data across multiple platforms. The most simplest level might be a pricing spreadsheet that the customer's working with to be able to effectively estimate for a customer the cost of or the price they need to charge for manufacturing some sort of bespoke product that needs to be built and distributed to them. Now, what we would be aiming to solve for there is unifying that data so that the pricing spreadsheet is sitting within platform, calling on correct cost prices with margins and allowing you to accelerate the quote to cash process effectively. Now, that's one process, and by quote to cash, it is quoting, securing the order, focusing it on accurate delivery or lead times for that product, being able to then actually deliver on that. And by unifying that data, you're able to not have to triplicate the data from one system to the next system to an Excel spreadsheet and then back through that process. It's happening within one unified platform, really to make it accurate and speed up the process and offer both more accurate, but hopefully better customer service, better retention of that customer, and more accurate forecasting for visibility for both delivery, which is coupled with when can I actually start producing this? Do I have the capacity ultimately to deliver? So that's kind of a practical example of a data silo and then removing the data silo.
I'm always cautious, and I understand that people can't always answer this question, at least in a specific company sort of sense. But are you able to give, even if you need to anonymize them, an example of a manufacturer that you've worked with where you were able to help out with such issues?
Sure, I'll give two. The first one's sort of refer to the quote to cash process. So this is an example of a customer in the automotive add-ons quoting on a configurable product that needs to be attached to a vehicle. So in that situation there, the customer's calling on a quote, but importantly, they need to be able to link the configuration of the item, so how it's configured, get an accurate costing, and then feed that straight into a production process. So let's just step through that. Customer rings in, has a requirement, choosing from a bunch of options. They choose someone's working with them to choose the options. They choose all these options, which spits out an accurate quote based on current pricing, so cost plus pricing to make sure the margin's preserved. Then there is no rekeying of that configuration into the production process. That is one element where you've removed the need to rekey that order into the production process to then execute on the production, which is then providing relevant documentation for people on the production floor to be able to manufacture the item and then fit it to the vehicle, and then ultimately communicate delivery dates, invoice dates, and so forth back to the customer. The customer's ringing for inquiries, or sales or customer service is able to see at a glance where that is in the production process and if there's anticipated delays to the said build. That's one example, Brent, that's playing out in real time. And I'd say another example from a different manufacturer is finite capacity in their manufacturing process. So this is referring to a food producer. They've got an order to refine a product. They have finite capacity in their refinery to slot that in, and they can accurately see in a schedule where they can slot that product in for the relevant tonnage that they need to actually refine, and they can see that. And so that allows them to do production planning, which in their situation optimizes their workflow. So they're not overproducing items that they don't need to keep the manufacturing going. They can slot in that next customer order at the right time, and they've got visibility of it early. And then associated in their world, they also need to deal with quality assurance and things like that around their products. So there's lots of quality management things that they need to deal with, and that's all happening within a single system.
Let's move on to the next thing I wanted to ask about, and that's the concept of a digital thread. I've heard it mentioned every now and then, and it was especially part of the Industry 4 conversation that everyone was having a few years back. Tell me about the digital thread notion in your work with customers and what we're talking about.
It probably goes back to the example that I use with the quote to cash process. Is that thread you're trying to weave through that workflow is what people are referring to in the industry regarding that digital thread. There's some other complications and considerations in the Industry 4.0 conversation around where data sits and what data sits in what system. Not all data has to sit in the one, even though we're talking about removing silos. There's a wider conversation there. But in terms of that thread, it's really making sure that in a workflow that the customer is dealing with a workflow that is consistent, that is supported, that makes sense as it goes through and it's not disjointed. The byproduct of that comes into really then capturing in an easier way the right data and flowing it into the platform so that it's meaningful and you can start relying on the information within the platform. So if we look at a recent example, I was speaking with someone who's got a challenge around an inwards delivery as a raw material for what they need, and they need to temperature check, for instance, the truck as it delivers the goods, and if the temperature is outside of range, they put it in a quarantined part of their warehouse, wait for 2 hours to ensure that the temperature of the product has remained consistent or has cooled to within the appropriate range, and then that product can be released through the workflow. That's a thread from the goods receipt process into the quality process and then into moving it into the warehouse and being able to scan and move that product through to then consume in the production process. And I think that's where you've got these practical examples of I'm removing needing to have the spreadsheet sitting off the side to manage that process. I've centralized it in a key platform. So Then in turn, what's the benefit I'm getting? When I go through my HACCP ordering process, I'm able to clearly show that I'm meeting those quality requirements, but I'm also just being able to capture potentially problems earlier. I'm able to see where a product was used for recall purposes and so forth. So these digital processes then support scale, they support visibility, they support being able to potentially work with your supplier more effectively on making sure that they're meeting their needs so that you don't actually have these problems with ultimately, well, what's the result of this? You don't have to trip over yourself to get to data. It's lowering costs, it's making the process easier. And it's also providing good quality curated experiences for your team members to work with as well.
There's a role within all of this for culture. What would you like to say about bringing a team along when you're implementing better ways of working?
Brent, the most important element really is around bringing people on a journey of change. Changing systems is not just about changing the tech at the back end. It really is about the management of change. Functionally, does a system meet the requirements that you outline, you being the said customer that requires a number of functional requirements? That is one part. And frankly, it's the easiest part to confirm. The change management element regarding bringing employees along on the journey and making sure you're clearly communicating the benefits of that change both to them as the user, so that there's practical and real benefits to them as a member of the team within the business is critical. Supporting and facilitating the change that those people need to undertake in a tangible way as well. Now, by supporting them, making sure the right training is provided at the right time and that they're freed up to undertake the training and appropriately learn what they need to execute their role in the new system. And then enabling, at Business Hub, we talk about a lot about our three-phase approach to implementing, for instance, in that phase around empowering customers to be able to do what they need to do. So that is the legitimate intent to empower users who have the capability or who desire the capability to actually unlock the platform and start getting value out of the platform. Being amenable and open to the pushback and the resistance that always comes with change. So listening and tweaking and taking that feedback on board is also critical. And I think also making sure that the scope of the change project is defined so people understand what is being done, but just as importantly, what isn't being touched in that change journey, because you can't change everything all at once. It's a journey that the business needs to go through. I hope that sort of hones in, Brent, on your question and sort of answers it, because I think it's a really important part and something we're really passionate about as well.
To zoom out a little bit, we're currently having a pretty serious discussion nationally about productivity, which is and has been pretty bad for quite a while and is not heading in the right direction. And one of the responses to that potentially is greater use of AI within businesses. Tell me about how what we're talking about now relates to the other conversation I just mentioned around productivity and the use of AI.
So productivity, wow, what a broad conversation that is. Let's focus on productivity and then we'll talk around probably AI as a second thing. Systems and workflows and unifying those workflows are enabling the businesses and the organizations we're working with to do more with the capable resources that they have. So it's lifting the productivity of their workers to do the work that they're best placed to do. That's what the vast majority of our customers are seeking. So they are seeking, I'm having difficulty finding skilled workers. I'm having difficulty filling various positions in my business. I'm not wanting less people. I'm actually wanting to do more. And I can't get these resources in. I may be cost constrained. How do I give tools to help lift my most valuable resources, being my people, to do better quality work? And better quality work is working with their customers, working with their suppliers, not being bogged down in system and workflow challenges that add very little value to the business if they're just tripping over themselves. That's ultimately what I see as the productivity gain that our customers are working with and striving for. They're really trying to do more with the resources they've got and offering them higher quality work to do as well. I think that, to me, in the conversations I'm having with C-suite people in businesses, it's that conversation they're really wanting to have. They're saying, I want to give my team members greater quality work. I want to get low value processes or hurdles out of their way, and I need good digital tools to do it. Segueing then to where does AI fit into this? AI fits into this in terms of, I think we've got AI tooling coming into so many products, and BusinessHub is working with AI tooling within Acumatica. And what they are doing is, again, I think in practical terms, in value terms, in phase one is removing low value items in the workflow, anomaly detection, being able to speed up reporting and getting more accuracy into those workflows. Linking productivity and AI is real, but I think there's still a lot going on regarding AI within the ERP platforms to be able to truly unlock those benefits. What we are doing is we're ensuring that we're further ready for AI in terms of having structured data so that we can overlay powerful AI tools over the top to be able to glean insights from that data, and trying to reduce the number of applications, which makes the adoption of AI tools much easier. At a practical level, if we can remove these silos and have fewer, I won't say one, fewer places for data, it makes the adoption of AI much easier, and you can start to see the benefits quicker. And yes, I suppose if that transpires for each business, there's productivity gains to be had.
We've covered rather a lot of ground here, and I think it's approaching the end of our conversation. So I think, as we did in our last episode with MYOB, we checked out with some practical advice and a kind of checklist from a previous guest, Bruce Minty, who gave manufacturers some tips on some areas they can work through. For our topic now, is there a practical checklist similar to that you might like to share with listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So we come at it from the perspective of, and again, I'll look forward to going back over and listening to Bruce, who's got an enormous amount of experience and understanding across the Australian landscape with manufacturers, with his history and his skills and career. We're coming at this from helping our customers select and implement the right solution. And that's what BusinessHub is working with our customers hand in glove. And if MYOB Acumatica can fit the bill, well, let's get on with deploying. So what are some of those things that customers should do if they're considering moving to a cloud-based ERP, enterprise resource planning platform with BusinessHub? Would be really getting into a deep understanding of their current systems and identifying gaps and requirements that they have to fill within those current systems. And that needs to be done across functions or departments within the business. That should, by nature, flesh out the relevant data silos that are in the business. So where I've got data sitting in different departments and then I'm manually moving across those data silos. So where can we get those data silos removed into the central platform? An example might be customer data with CRM. It might be the pricing data with respect to quoting, to translating that into a production order, as an example. Look out for any integration priorities for key systems. So if you've got a key system that can't be moved, and they exist in many, many businesses for various reasons, point solutions for certain industries, whatever it might be, there's many of them. And just defining what the integration, if any, is required. These can be high impact in terms of the business. They could break existing workflows, and you've got to take those on the journey. The next one would be making sure that as you migrate from one system to another, that you give deep consideration to the data and the cleaning and management of that data on the way through, making sure that you've standardized it, give it as an opportunity for a really good cleanup. Make sure that your resources are ready and able to actually undertake a major change within the business is also another one. And then we need to work with our customers on understanding the key stakeholders that are engaged in the process, not just the C-suite people. They are often making the decision, but it's individual people, production managers, head of sales, someone in the payroll area processing accounts payable, accounts receivable, make sure the debts can be collected, make sure suppliers can get paid. Are those people on the journey? They are critical processes to make sure heads of department in those areas are ready and able to go. In terms of realistic timelines, what does success look like? Broadly defined as KPIs, I think are critical to identify as well. And I think the really big one is making sure that we talk about containing the need. So trying to actively make the project smaller, not bigger, dealing with key requirements, because you want to kind of pick a series of problems or one problem and solve it and then get the system in place to be able to build on it. You can't do everything all at once. This dovetails directly into our conversation with customers around empowering them. So how do we get the platform in place to facilitate them being empowered to take it on more and roll it out through their organization? We need to be working with great customers. And to get great customers, we need to empower them on the platform to help inform the building and the decision making as they move forward. So they are the key sort of checklist items, I'd say, that I would sort of pass on to a customer, whether you're working with us, working with a third party, or have the skills internally to do this within your business. We're happy to engage on all of those. It's such a critical part, and it makes for a great project when you get this right.
Well, it's been fun, and I appreciate you donating your time to appear on AU Manufacturing Conversations. Good to catch up with you, David.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brent.